Hey Nick, how do you manage your projects? Do you just store a folder on your computer and save it, and whenever you make a change, do you at least upload it to like a USB drive or maybe an external hard drive? Maybe you use a service like Dropbox or Google Drive to put your projects up there so that you have a backup online. If you're using one of these methods, then there's actually a better way to do this, and this way is called version control. Now, what version control is, in essence, is a system that allows you to store the differences between versions of your project. So essentially it keeps track of the changes that you make to your project. Now, how is that different from, say, zipping up a file and then uploading it to Dropbox or Google Drive whenever you make a change? Well, the difference is that if you upload to Dropbox or Google Drive, you're actually saving your entire source code in a zip file. And let's say your source code is like 300 megabytes. You're uploading 300 megabytes every single time you make a change, unless you're backing up like every month, which is not a good idea because you'll make a lot of changes in a month. Version control, however, keeps only one folder, only one repository, and every time you make a change, it only saves those things that you've actually changed. It doesn't resave all the files that you didn't even touch. What that allows you to do is it allows you to save space, it allows you to save time, and it has an added benefit of being able to go back to any previous version of your project that you've ever made. So if you made a project 2 years ago and you've made consistent changes and improvements to your project, you can go back to 2 months into the project and see how your source code was at the time. So if you've lost a feature that you want to re-implement or anything of that sort, you just go back to that version and then take the code straight from there. Or if you say, for example, broke something in your latest build and you just can't track down which change actually broke that, you can go back and see what changes you made so that you can be like, oh, well, I added that thing and that's the thing that's broken. This has enormous benefits over, say, doing, saving your source code, zipping it up and uploading it to Dropbox every single time, or even doing a USB transfer. You just type a couple commands or use a GUI to just do it all super, super fast. Version control usually comes with a command line interface, so that you're going to be doing like a little hacking thing where you're sitting down like a hacker and typing everything into a command line. However, it also has a really nice user interface, and depending on which version of version control you use, you will get a different interface, and you can choose which interface you want to use, whichever one appeals to you. And I'll introduce you to a couple. In this video, I will only cover what version control is and essentially what Git is, and I'll only focus on Git for this tutorial series. Now, Git is a type of version control, and it's a distributed type of version control. Let's go over to the screen and I'll show you what this means. What a distributed version control system is essentially you have this server online, somewhere on the cloud, someone's storing it, say GitHub, for example, and this contains your entire source code. Let's call this S for server, and it has a bunch of your files. It keeps track of all the changes that you've ever made. Now you have this remote server that you have somewhere up there, and let's say that you want to take that code that's up there and put it on your computer. So let's say this is you little chubby guy. You run a command, and essentially it will copy the entire repository from the server onto your local machine for L. And this will also keep track of every single change that's ever been made to the project, which means that your local machine, your computer, contains the entire repository and all of the changes that's ever been made to this project, which essentially mirrors what's there on the server. Now, the benefit of this over, say, a regular version control system, which is, I believe, non-distributed, I forgot what it's called, but something like SVN has only this. Let's say this is the server and it's an SVN and it has all of these changes. What you'll be able to do is only pull the latest version of the source code, so only whatever's up here. So you'll have a local SVN thing and it will only have this latest version. So you won't have all of the changes that's ever been made to the project on your local machine, although there are still on the server. So now let's go back. Another added benefit to this is that, let's say your buddy decides to say, hey man, can I check out your source code? And you say, yeah, sure, just pull from my repository. You give them the permissions to do that. And now your friend will be able to get an exactly the same copy of the repository with all the changes made straight from the remote server. Now, let's say something catastrophic happens and the server just breaks down. It just dies out. What happens? Well, now each of you have a local version on your computer. This is what's really cool. In case that the server goes down and dies, any one of you can just create a new repository and put that entire project back on another server. So essentially you have like a double fail-safe in case the server goes down, or in case you lose something, you can always get all the changes, or they lose something, you can get all the changes. And you know, in the catastrophic example here, you can make a new repository. And this is really, really cool because you always have your project everywhere you go. You don't have to carry it on a flash drive. You don't have to do anything. You just have to log into the website and then pull the changes from there. Now, Git has a very cool feature called branches. And what branches are is essentially a mirrored version of whatever your project is. Now, let me show you on a little diagram. Let's say that this is your main project. This is the timeline of your project, and here you have your major update that you've made, and here's another major update that you've made, and here's a third major update you've made. Here is where you're at right now. Now, let's say you want to create a new feature that's experimental and you want to try something new. What you can do is instead of working on your main branch of your repository and risk screwing everything up and having to go all the way back, what you can do is you can actually branch out your repository. What this will do is essentially create a new track, similar to like a train track. And on this branch, you'll be able to do anything you want. You can experiment with new features, add new stuff, delete stuff, move stuff around. You can essentially mess everything up. Now, let's say you mess everything up and the branch is crapped out and it's just not working on that branch. Doesn't matter, because you still got the main branch that you can easily move to and continue working from there. Now, the cool thing is, like, let's say that you have a successful feature on this new branch. You have something that you've made and you've finalized it and it works and it's perfect. How do you get it to the main branch? How do you even work? Do you just continue working on this? No, because what you can do is you can essentially merge the two branches together, and now the main branch has all of the changes that you've made on this one. Now, you could set up your branches to improve your workflow in a team. And even when you're working solo, you can kind of organize yourself a bit better using branches. So let's say, for example, you have this main branch of your project, which you designate as the branch on which if you build any version, it will work. It's a stable, completely working version. Now, from there, you branch out another one, which is going to be the development version. So this is going to be the dev branch, essentially. And on the dev branch, you're going to be doing active development. You're going to be adding new features, adding cool new stuff. Let's say these are major features. And from the dev branch, you'll be doing other very minor branches, which are going to be features. That's a terrible writing. I'm using a mouse, so excuse me for that. But essentially, you'll be doing these features and you'll be adding them to the dev branch, testing them, making sure they work. And let's do a couple more features here. There's a feature 2. I'll just do F2. And you're building on this dev branch. And then at some point you say, you know what? It's all working, it's all stable, I'm gonna merge back into the master branch. And now you can ensure that your master branch is always working on stable builds. Now, if you want to, for some reason, go back to any point in the past, for example, I don't know, let's go to this point. You can always check that out. You can always go back to any point in the past and check how your code was at the time in case you deleted some code and you wanted to get it back, or you have a bug and you want to trace it down. This is an extremely useful feature, and Git allows you to do this, which is just a fantastic, great thing. Now, it takes a little bit of time to learn, which is why I'm making this tutorial series. There is a slight learning curve, but with a GUI, which I'm going to show you in the next episode, is going to be super easy, and you're going to be you're probably not going to want to go back to doing this whole Dropbox thing or just saving it on a flash drive. You're probably just going to want to stick to this because it's extremely useful, and the features that they provide is absolutely worth the hassle of watching, a couple, like 30 minutes of video to learn how it all works. Now, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for this episode. In the next episode, I will show you the GUI and maybe a little bit of the command line, and I'll dabble into a couple of different things, show you how to start a new repository, put your code onto that repository, and keep track of all of the changes and go back to different stages of the project. So thank you so much for watching this episode. I will see you on Wednesday. Goodbye.